It's 2020 and welcome to the battle of the webcams here on Brighton West Videos channel. If you're a coach, I'd love it if you subscribe to my videos, but in today's video what we're going to talk about is webcams that are available in the summer of 2020. So first we're going to talk about the webcams and the features and whatnot, and then we're going to do a little comparison between the gold standard and the what's available right now. So the gold standard is the C920 or the C922. And these are great webcams. They're external webcams. These are both external webcams. So you might have a webcam built into your computer, but this is if you want to add something outside for any number of reasons. But this one is a 1080p webcam, does compression inside. Great webcam, normally $60 to $90 like in February of this year. But right now, $150 is pretty much what you're going to pay for one of these. There just are not enough of them out there, and everyone is buying this webcam because it is the standard. And when I say this webcam, I am meaning the C920 or the C922 or maybe even the C925. They're all great webcams, and they all just plug into the USB port on your computer. And let's just talk about the C922. It's got a little bit of adjustment here, so you can kind of change it up and down, and it's got a lot of adjustment here in terms of how you can hook this onto your computer. You typically just hook it onto your computer like that. And I want to mention this little cover here. This is just my cover for privacy so that I can close off my webcam. And also it has little eyeballs on it to remind me to look at the camera. It also has a 1/4 20 screw on the bottom, and what that does is that allows you to screw it into a standard tripod or something like a teleprompter that has a standard tripod mount. That's something a lot of my clients are doing, is using a teleprompter, and I'll have a video up in one of the corners about how to do that. Face-to-face webcam, great tool. To use that tool, you need a webcam, ideally one with a 1/4 20 screw on the bottom, otherwise you're going to be using duct tape. But let me talk about this next one. So this is just a generic webcam that I got off of Amazon. It's a lot lighter, and it costs about $50. Both of these I'll have links down below. But it's similar in terms of like how it mounts, just not quite as flexible. That's okay. A little more flexibility in that it not only goes up and down, it goes left and right. So we've got a little bit of flexibility there. Once again, just plugs into your USB port. So to start out, we're using the generic webcam, and you can kind of see here what the quality is. So one of the things I like about this webcam is that it has a narrow field of view. So if you're just you on camera, it's best to kind of keep that tight so you're not showing kind of the junk that shows up in the background, and it just feels better in terms of how much of the screen you fill up and how close to the camera you need to be. So this has a great field of view. The C920, 922, a little bit wider. Some of the other ones that are business webcams are even wider, so they're meant to show like a whole conference room full of people. But if you're working alone, if you're a coach or a therapist, you're on video calls, this is a really great angle. But what I want you to look at is kind of the quality of the video. So you can see here, over here, how washed out that is in terms of how white that is. Also look down here at the edge of this, how much the pixels are almost kind of dancing around there. Also same over here, how the pixels are just kind of dancing. The level of detail, pay attention to that. Also on my shirt, the colors that you see there, how the pixels aren't just steady. They're kind of constantly moving around. So those are a couple things to look for. I'm going to switch you over to the C922, and you can see the difference. I'll switch back and forth a couple of times so you can gauge whether it's worth it for you to invest in the more expensive camera, or if something less expensive works well enough for your purposes. Okay, so let me switch over to the 922. And you can see here, like I mentioned, it's a little bit wider. Easy to move around here. So we're showing a little bit more of the junk in my background, but that's okay if you have a cleaner house, not a problem. But you can really see the difference here in how crisp this is. So look over here in terms of how much the pixels are dancing. They are dancing here. They're dancing a little bit on my shirt, but not as much. But really, if you look at like the brightness, the contrast over here in terms of how bright that was on the last camera, and how this is really managing that a lot better. Now, the other thing to note is that this camera does pretty well in terms of all different light situations. It's able to adjust itself really well. The cheaper camera, I found that it wasn't so good when I had a lot of light going on in the room. The camera wasn't adjusting down to accommodate for too much light. So let me switch over here back to the generic webcam. So here you go. Here's a chance to look at this, look around, look in the corners, see what you see how the pixels look, and then head back over here to the 922. And you've got a good comparison. So now you can go back and forth in YouTube if you want to look at the two. I want to give you one more look here, and that is going to be the FaceTime camera that's built into my computer. Now this is a 720p webcam. Instead, the other two were, let me cut it off the top of my head. The other two were 1080p, so they had a lot more pixels on the screen. So this is kind of standard HD versus a little bit higher HD. But you can see what this looks like now in terms of how much the pixels are dancing around, how much that area over here is just blasted out, and it actually looks pretty good. This is a little bit better than I've typically seen this webcam look, but I think it's just because the light is kind of perfect in here. So one of the most important things to do with a webcam is to look into the lens, and that's why I've got these little eyeballs I mentioned earlier that are on the lens of all my cameras that aren't brand new, but that just helps remind me and helps me to look into the camera lens, because if you're not looking into the camera lens and you're looking down at the screen, you can see that it doesn't look right. Doesn't look like I'm looking at you when I'm looking at the screen. So there is a way around that. It's not necessarily cheap, but if you are a therapist or a coach and you're on video calls all day long, it's definitely worth it. So you can check it out. I've got a video up here that shows you how to see eye to eye with your clients when on your webcam. And this gadget will work with either of these two webcams. I'll see you in the next video.